I must have tried recording the intro of this video like a dozen times at this point, and for some reason, I keep stumbling over my words. Let's try it again. Today, it's time for a best of 5 series, where in game number 1, we find ourselves on Cosmic Sapphire. Spotting right here in the top left-hand corner of the map, playing with the blue Protoss probes, we have MaxPax. Okay, that's one of the players out of the way. And the opponent, playing here with the red Zerg drones, he goes by the name of Ragnarok. I did it. All right, nice. For some reason, I'm recording this rather early in the morning today. For some reason, sometimes I just keep stumbling over my words, and then when I start saying the same thing over and over and over again, it gets worse, right? It gets somehow, some way significantly worse. Anyways, yesterday, at the beginning of the cast, I shared this screenshot that I took at the beginning of that match because I was casting a game between Zero and Maru, and I figured it would be a fun statistic to know that they are currently the #1 and the #2 in the world overall. Now, I don't think anyone was really surprised by that. However, when I was editing the video, I noticed that MaxPax is apparently now considered to be the rank 4 player on the planet, which is, yeah, kind of surprising. Almost a little confusing. So, here's the thing. I did a little bit of research, and MaxPax, over the last couple of months, has been grinding the online tournaments. He's been playing in practically everything that's available, and he seems to be winning the majority of them as well. He doesn't really lose against players that are weaker than him, and he now consistently wins against the players in the top 10 as well. Now, is he, however, the current rank 4 on the planet? It is honestly very hard to say, so I think you gotta take the stats with a grain of salt. So the way that Aligulac works is that basically it keeps track of all of the games that are being played in SC2, and then depending on how well you're doing against the rank of the opponent, it ranks all of the players amongst each other. So, say for example, I were to play a game against Cyril, I win against Cyril, which would never happen, but hypothetically speaking, bear with me, okay? I know that this is quite the thought process, but imagine I win against Cyril in a best of 5. Cyril would lose a ridiculous amount of points. He would probably stumble straight to like the 7th place, and I would gain a ton of points, and therefore I would go up, right? Pretty basic ranking system. Anyways, here's the thing. If you compare MaxPax to Cyril, Maru, Raynor, Cure, Clem, Hero, Beyond Dark, any of the other players in the current top 10, there's one thing you'll notice. These other players have all won multiple offline tournaments. They've been playing at a high level for a long time, and they've made a ridiculous amount of money doing so because, well, some of them are previous world champions of StarCraft 2, and in the case of Cyril, they're the current world champion of StarCraft 2. MaxPax, however, has never played in an offline tournament ever. As a matter of fact, he qualified for the World Championships at the beginning of this year, but he decided not to go. MaxPax really is a bit of a mystery. He doesn't really give interviews. He doesn't really use his microphone. He never has his camera on. All we really know is that MaxPax is a young guy from Denmark, but that's really everything. There's nothing else. We don't know anything. So, I don't know if it's fair to say that he's currently the rank 4 in the world, but there's no denying that MaxPax has been steadily climbing through the ranks, and I really hope that at some point he decides to participate in some of those offline tournaments too, because then he could really show his worth. It's very different to play at a, an offline tournament, right? It's very different to play on a stage than it is to, well, play from the comfort of your own home, right? So, yeah, I hope that at some point he does decide to make that call. He's never actually stated why he doesn't go to offline tournaments, so that's why a lot of people, myself included, are very curious. We don't really know too much about him, but apparently, according to Aligulac, the very best Protoss player in the world right now is a complete mystery. Kind of cool, actually. All right, when I say it like that, it kind of sounds badass. Sounds like an anime storyline or something like that. The Mystery Pro Gamer. We need a theme song. Can we have a MaxPax theme song? Can someone get on that? Anyways, a lot of Zerglings were produced here by Ragnarok. And he does force the council on that Nexus, and obviously, he had to make a lot of links as well, right? So, it's not like he's actually in that amazing of a spot. I think that, yeah, one drone ended up going down on the other side of the map. The thing is, those Zerglings aren't free. So, normally we don't see Zergs making that many links at this stage in the game because they're busy droning up. But Ragnarok, of course, is happy to make a bunch of those units. Ragnarok right now also doing incredibly well. Apparently, he's not considered to be in the top 10 just yet, but he is certainly making moves. So, spoiler alert for the current GSO code S, if you're watching this video on the day that it goes up, yesterday, Ragnarok managed to take first place in the group stage of the tournament. So this is the second group stage that we're currently in. And he managed to take first place in his 5-man group. He had guys like, for example, Hero and Gumiho in the group, and he ended up beating all of them. Meaning that he's gonna go straight to the semifinals now of the GSL Code S, which is probably the hardest tournament in all of SC2. Now, I don't really like that move all too much. Anyways, what I'm trying to get at is that both MaxPax and Ragnarok are looking very strong right now. We'll see which of the two is currently better. Nope. Yeah, not getting any workers. He made a lot of Zergling, but he didn't really achieve too much with them. All right. Now, MaxPax, when he first came up, he played a... He's actually taken a 4th base already before the Zerg. I love this. So he was playing a pretty spicy style, a pretty cheesy approach in most of the matchups. However, these days, he really doesn't do that anymore. Every time I see MaxPax play over the last couple of months, he just goes for that stock standard approach. Now, obviously, when you're playing against the best players in the world, that may very well be the best approach, because cheesing them out is not as easy. But yeah, he has become a little bit less exciting to watch, I suppose, if you are a big fan of watching someone making gateways and photon cannons and that sort of thing on the other side of the map. I'm sure he mixes it in as well from time to time, but at least recently, I feel like he's, definitely taken that a step back, and he's been focusing a lot more on the macro style instead. Anyways, MaxPax going for that style that Hero popularized some time ago, where you go for a very, very quick 4th Nexus. You keep expending, so notice here the lack of gas at the 3rd base. Only a single gas geyser in the natural as well. This means that he's going to be able to make a ton of gateway units, but obviously not a whole lot of tech. A lot of Zerglings were produced as well, but luckily here for MaxPax there is quite a bit available. Is he going to be able to get the kill on the 4th base as well? That is a lot of Zerglings. Stalkers at this point are available. Oracles are coming back home. Ragnarok decides to disengage. A couple of depths over here being annoying too. 4 drones have gone down so far in this game, but honestly, no one really at this point at a game-winning position. Although I do like the spot for MaxPax, I think, a little bit better. Maybe that's because I'm a Zerg player myself, and I get a little bit scared whenever I see Protoss is expending this quick. Oh, a couple of Hydras get sacrificed. Hello. Yeah, Hydras without their speed upgrade aren't as good. So he's going into the ranged upgrade right now. He'll probably get muscular arguments here in a moment. That allows those Hydras to wiggle around a little bit faster. But anyways, both players comfortably taking the additional bases right now. And you can see at this point, MaxPax at 80 workers, Ragnarok at 70. And this is the style that Ragnarok, that MaxPax has been playing a lot. I'm sure it's the style that Ragnarok has been playing against a lot. But Zergs honestly seem almost a little confused as to what they need to do against this mass expansion style. So when this first came up a couple of months ago, Protoss would usually play incredibly aggressively with this army, but it seems to me that recently they're playing a bit more of a passive approach. So look at this, now he's going for some additional gases as well as a Robo Bay. So MaxPax expanding rapidly, but then tacking up on the back of it as well. So rather than just throwing a ton of gateway units at the opponent, I guess Zergs have gotten a little bit too good at that base defense. Yeah, they're mostly just tiptoeing around on the edge of the creep. They want to take engagements, but they don't want to walk all the way over there because, well, then the Zerglings will just wrap around everything. Stasis works. Beautiful. Very nicely done right there by Max. Blinking back the Stalkers, trying to get some value. Excellent work. He needs to get out of there at some point, but for now, yeah. Taking some really stellar traits. One thing that Zerg players have been doing as well is stack up towards Lurkers. So Lurkers historically not very popular in this matchup, but it turns out against Stalkers and Zealots they're pretty amazing. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to be something that Ragnarok is going to do in just a moment as well. Right now, honestly, I don't really like this position here for Zerg all too much. I mean, MaxPax is at 89 probes. He's still making 4 at once. His 5th Nexus is going to finish up in just a moment, and Ragnarok hasn't even considered making a 5th base. I mean, maybe, okay, right now he's moving on over towards the bottom left, but he needs to get some sort of work done, because otherwise MaxPax will just simply outgrow him. If you look at the income advantage right now, yeah, there was a moment apparently where Ragnarok had a small lead, but for the majority of this game so far, MaxPax has been outmining the Zerg, which is the exact opposite of what we saw like a year ago. It was always the Zerg players with the bigger economy for like the first, like literally decade of StarCraft 2. It was always the Zergs with the bigger economy, in a macro game of PvZ, but nowadays that has changed. Ragnarok, however, has been building up to this fight right over here. He's got to be so careful, though. There are disruptors available. Oh my god, beautiful. MaxPax grabs a bunch of those banelings, and that is exactly what he needs. I think losing this Nexus is fine, although... Ooh. Yeah, he's got other plans. He really wants to keep this alive. There are a lot of reinforcements coming up. Probes are ending up going down as well. In the meantime, some Zealots are doing some work on the other side of the map. I do believe that reinforcing Zerg units will clean that up. Is Ragnarok going to be able to grab the kill on this Nexus? Honestly, if he doesn't, he's in a rough spot. Yeah. So again, normally these fights would be pretty good for the Zerg, right? I mean, we're trading out armies, but that is always on the assumption that Zerg is economically ahead. When Zerg is economically ahead, they can take those trades that are cost inefficient, trading army, preventing the Protoss from being maxed out and all that. But in this case, yeah, he's trading inefficiently while being economically behind. Right now, it's not really reflected in the supply count too much just yet, but I've got a feeling that MaxPax within a minute or so is going to be maxed. He's going to be a MaxPax. Okay, sorry, I tried. No, he's going to be at a very healthy supply lead here, I believe, in just a sec. Anyways, +3/+3 coming up here for the Protoss player from Denmark as well. He's going into the Templar Archives. How many gateways does he have at this point? Only 10, actually, so definitely wouldn't mind seeing a couple more coming up. I guess if you're on top of the warp in, it's not a terrible idea. Ragnarok, once again, trying to get economical damage done, which is nice and all, but even if he kills all of this, which he won't. Oh, that's one way to defend that. He's not actually in that comfortable of a spot here either. Okay. Alright, now the High Templar get warped in. One more warp in and MaxPax is maxed. Protoss probes even moving on over towards what is normally considered to be one of the Zerg bases. One thing that Ragnarok does have going for him right now, though, is indeed this bottom left base. I really like that one. Those juicy golden minerals are incredibly helpful, although Protoss is now getting that beautiful pink Vespian gas. The pink Vespian mines for 8 gas a trip rather than the conventional 4, so this adds up incredibly quick. The golden minerals mine for 7 a trip rather than 5, so high yield gas definitely not to be underestimated. But right now, MaxPax has built up an army. And this is a strong army as well. That's actually not +3. Okay, I thought it was +3, but it's actually +2. Ooh, nice hit. Yeah, so that's the ground armor, level 2. Finishing up here in just a sec. But +3 is going to finish up in just a moment as well. A bunch of Zerglings here running through a group of Archons. Not ideal, and this base is 100% toast. At the same time, though, on the other side of the map, we do have an engagement here as well. Hydras and Zerglings doing pretty well against those Zealot warp-ins. With a couple more warp-ins, I do think that Protoss will probably clean up that Zerg attack. Not really losing a whole lot of important infrastructure just yet, although he did lose the Cyber Core. I mean, it's going to force Protoss to warp in more Zealots, I suppose, which he's probably not too bothered by. Okay, only Stalkers left over here, as well as a bunch of those Disruptors. One Archon as well with 17 kills to its name. But yeah, there it is. GG is called. MaxPax wins game number 1. Okay, next up, we find ourselves on Moondance. I fast-forwarded through the first couple of minutes of this game. It's once again going to be a Stargate opener here for MaxPax. Nothing too surprising, and Ragnarok has decided to go for a quick triple hatch opener. Anyways, not really anything going wrong in that first game for MaxPax. He just simply expanded very nicely, he microed really cleanly, and eventually he ended up with one hell of an army. Ragnarok going for a style where he is essentially forced to deal critical amounts of damage with a timing attack. That's how a lot of Zerg players seem to approach this matchup right now, where they go for a timing attack that is essentially meant to kill the Protoss. But then if Protoss doesn't die, yeah, that previous game happens, right? So we saw that Zergling Hydra Baneling attack. And the Disruptors probably came out at a moment where MaxPax, well, was comfortable with it, but Ragnarok didn't quite expect him yet. Ended up being a little bit tricky. Once again, good start right here for our Protoss. Getting 4 drone kills at the cost of 2 Adepts, not bad at all, because obviously it also is forcing out a couple of those Zerglings. Spore Crawler a little bit later than you need it. Usually 325 on this map is about right. So maybe this Oracle can now also get a couple kills. Yep. Yep, excellent. So MaxPax is not really someone who mixes it up all too much, but he does mix it up in small ways. So usually he will get, for example, like one or more, or one more Oracle than he did in the previous game, or like one less Oracle. He'll expend a little bit faster. He'll make these subtle adjustments from game to game. And even though, like, if you look at it as a casual observer, right, you're not really paying attention to the details, the games look pretty much identical. He's always changing it up a little bit. So in this particular case, he went for the pocket base, which forces you to play differently. But yeah, we'll see what he decides to transition to here in just a moment. I wouldn't be surprised if once again we're going to see a Forge as well in just a moment. He'll go for the Twilight Council. But for example, he might go for like Charge first rather than Blink, right? He's making small adjustments that keep the opponent on their toes, and it's quite difficult to play against. Anyways, another Oracle coming out. So 3 Oracles in total, once again. They're all spread around the bases. They've got red hit points. But at the very least, they get hugs. Actually, they collided with one another. I don't know if that's considered to be a hug. Ooh, okay. Scooting and shoveling that one weakened Oracle towards the back. Going in a little bit deeper. Yeah, I don't think that's what you want to do. Good targeting right there by Ragnarok. Going after the weakened Oracle first. Another Oracle coming in. Stasis Ward. Yeah. Okay. So what exactly do you do differently here if you're Ragnarok? He's decided to go for a very quick +1 melee. Or maybe not a very quick, but definitely faster than what we normally see. So this does mean that he's not going to have a lair. At this point, he's also decided to, forego a Baneling Nest as well as a Roach Warren. So this is a little bit risky. Protoss hasn't really shown him exactly what he's going for, right? So he hasn't seen much. Oh my god, Ragnarok with the Diva announcer. Maybe he saw the timing right there of the Forge, and he's like, okay, if my opponent went for that, Oracle opener and that quick of a third Nexus, and I see the timing of the Forge, I can skip the Roach Warren and I can skip the Baneling Nest. He's gonna have to get one or the other here in a moment, but this is a little bit risky for sure. If this would have been some sort of like 3-base follow-up right now from MaxPax, I think that Ragnarok would have been in a lot of trouble because he would literally just have Zerglings and Queens. That works pretty well against Terran. Not so great against Protoss. And honestly, these moves. Again, 10 drones have gone down in this game. 14 Zerglings. That is not the start you're looking for as a Zerg at all. MaxPax using this rather than going for an attack to go for a 4th Nexus. Slowly moving up. He's seen the amount of Zerglings. So maybe not as quick of a 5th Nexus this time around, but he's investing into a shield battery as well as a photon cannon just to maintain safety. Okay, so Rak is going straight into a Baneling Nest and then also a Hydra Den, but yeah, definitely a little bit risky. +1 melee at this point is done though. And I do like that quite a bit. Now going into +1 missile, okay. Infestation Pit coming up as well, so maybe we're gonna see a quick Hive or something along those lines. Anyways, +1 melee is fantastic against these Stalker-based armies, but imagine he was doing this against a Zealot-based army. There's really no way for the Zerg player to know which of the two it's gonna be. Yeah, obviously that would not be as great. Okay. Those Stasis Wards are killer. Oracles are doing so much work. I really wouldn't mind it if, like, Protoss players decided to go for, like, 5 Oracles in every game. They always seem to get a ridiculous amount of value. Anyways, this trade just now not as great for the Protoss, especially because now it's buying time for Ragnarok to get additional tech. So he's decided to go into a Hive and then indeed go for the Lurker Den as well. Within the next couple of minutes, Ragnarok is going to have that underground siege unit. And while there is some detection available in those Oracles, yeah, Revelation is nice and all, there's not really a lot of reliable detection, and obviously not a lot of great units to actually deal with those Lurkers either. If the Lurkers are on this high ground, good luck moving up there with Zealots or with Stalkers. It's just not going to happen. So MaxPax is going to have to tech up. So there, once again, do we have the double upgrades coming up. So one of the forges is later than the other, so that must have been what he did in the first game as well. Robo Facility finally coming up as well. He's already got the 5th Nexus here. Yeah, so this is really a continuation of the style that Hero popularized some time ago. Where Hero played it very aggressively, MaxPax is playing it a little bit more passively. And then at some point he decides to take all the gases, it seems. So he uses the start of Hero's playstyle So he uses the start of Hero's build order. And then from there, he transitions towards a lot more gas and a lot more tech. But he basically leverages himself with that early game into a quick 5th base. And then from there, he really starts making a scarier Protoss army that's not based just around Zealots and Stalkers. Okay. So at the very least, Ragnarok has bought himself a bunch of time, right? This is not a game where he's going to lose to just a bunch of Stalkers and Zealots. Is that really the type of game, though, that he wants to play against MaxPax? It's certainly shifting gear. But I don't think that MaxPax is going to feel uncomfortable playing against this sort of thing. It's just a different game to play. These are usually the types of games where, like, the grinders are really scary, right? Like the guys that grind literally 1,000 games every season. MaxPax seems to be one of them. Just playing a ton of games, learning how to respond in every single one of those scenarios. And even this one, yeah, even though this one may not be as common as what we saw in the previous game, I don't believe that MaxPax is going to feel uncomfortable in this situation. Anyways, a lot of banelings are being made right now on the right side of the map. Lurkers get spotted. We're going into +3/+2 again. Zealots actually find the banelings. A little expensive right there for the Protoss, but definitely not free for the Zerg either. You're still trading minerals for gas, which I actually think is not a bad situation for Protoss. Okay, good zoning right there. This base, it's on a high ground. Very difficult to acquire. In the meantime, there's also a Zealot warping here in the bottom right-hand corner. Banelings get halted on the right side of the map. Beautifully done. Hatchery gets killed in the bottom left. Zealots do get denied over here in the bottom right, but the majority of them get out of there as they find safety inside of that prism. And now we're going to go into a late-game army. Now, this is right underneath an Overseer. Your forces are taking damage. Terrible, terrible damage. Sorry, that's my D.Va impression. How did I do? You're all out of minerals, but there's plenty of rocks. She always shouts that whenever your macro is good. Anyways, there's the double Stargate and the fleet beacon. So MaxPax is setting himself up for a late game. So look at this late game right now, right? Is this really what Zerg wants to do? I am not convinced. This is 5 base versus 5 base. Like in the past, the turtle style of Protoss that we saw in the previous patch where the Void Ray was very strong, right? Zergs would be playing against Protosses that were at most on like 4 bases, right? So the goal usually for most Zerg players was to basically prevent the Protoss from ever getting another base up. You would try to soft contain them on 4 or 5 bases, or like 3 or 4 bases rather. Try and prevent that 5th to the best of your abilities. Because as soon as the 5th base is taken, Protoss will get gas to make a ridiculous amount of Skytools units. And the way that MaxPax plays, he's preserving a lot of gas until later on. So he's getting, yeah, a very good group of, look at this, 5 carriers at once. Normally that Skytools transition takes a few minutes. But yeah, MaxPax right now fighting just to trade out supply so he can get those Skytools units out. What does Ragnarok have? Ragnarok has 4 Hydralisks and 5 Queens. Those are the only units that can shoot up. He's got 19 Lurkers. He needs to use those Lurkers to take care of one of those bases real soon, because otherwise he's in a lot of trouble. Okay. Oh. A group of disruptors coming from the side. New Nexus being acquired over here. He did see, by the way. Okay. Good bailing detonations over there, too. He did see the Nexus. The Stargate transition with that Overseer, so he knows what he's going up against. Probes are falling left, right, and center. This is now starting to become rather expensive here, though, for the Protoss. Yeah. Well, I mean, 25 probes have gone down. He's still at 70. It's honestly fine. Soon there's gonna be like 9 carriers out, though. And I am very concerned for the inevitable counterattack. I have not seen a Spire. And essentially what Ragnarok is forcing here is an all-in from the Protoss. You need to be ready for that all-in. Because this is still a Protoss army that's gonna pack a punch. I'm assuming anyways, MaxPax is gonna go for a move. Maybe he's gonna sit here? I don't think that's right. Now the Spire is coming up. Okay. Really? We're just gonna sit here? Okay. Well, he's gonna find out about the carriers anyways, if he didn't already know. They were hiding in the main base. It's a lot of dead Zerglings again. Ragnarok is still going up against 4 base Protoss, though. Or maybe 3.5. But this is still enough for MaxPax to max out. This is a scary Protoss force, okay? Rack, what you need against this is probably like 40 Spore Crawlers. And a lot of Corruptors. Okay, so he's making 17 Corruptors right now. Here it comes. The ground units for Protoss shouldn't achieve too much. So the Corruptors together with the Vipers can definitely get work done. I think if MaxPax waits for too long, this Protoss army is going to get shut down pretty easily. Because the Spore Crawler count is growing. Those Vipers will have energy. But right now may actually be the perfect time to go. Yeah. Interceptors are all fully deployed. Okay. The question is, how many kills can those Corruptors get? Good targeting as well. Stalkers get underneath. They do sacrifice themselves here on one of those lurkers, but that's a good trade. That's a good trade for Protoss. In the meantime, by the way, MaxPax expanding. So this almost feels like an all-in, but it really isn't. We're still we're still talking 70 versus 77 workers. Okay. Ragnarok trying to bait the blink forward, but so far it's not happening. Archon? Archon underneath. Whenever the Archon fires against clumped up Corruptors, they, will definitely deal a lot of damage. Now there's Vipers out, though. Okay, so that's good for Ragnarok. Getting those Vipers out allows him to abduct those units and pick them off one at a time. Parasitic Bomb, Parasitic Bomb. Okay, there's Parasitic Bomb. Important. Ugh. Good targeting right there by MaxPax, by the way. Sniping all of those Vipers easy peasy. Definitely an overextension by Ragnarok. Flying those units way too far forward. Probably not expecting the Protoss units to camp out in the middle of the map. Alright. Yeah, those Archons are so critical. Look at them zoning. Yeah, the Archons are preventing those Corruptors from getting a good engagement in. Okay, maybe now they can finally go in for the move, but still a lot of damage is being done. 19 drones have already gone down, and I don't even think that Ragnarok is killing his army. There's additional carriers coming in as well. +3 just started up. There it is. Game 2 also goes in favor of the Danish Protoss. Okay, next up, Tropical Sacrifice. Match point right here for MaxPax already, who honestly showed a very mature style in that previous game. Generally, whenever new players come up in SC2, and MaxPax has been around for quite some time at this point, so maybe it's not entirely fair to label him as like a new player. It's just that he hasn't played offline tournaments, so it's really, yeah, in my mind, I guess he will always be a new player if he doesn't play in any of those. Anyhow, generally speaking, whenever like newer players come up, they will have a very good approach in all of the matchups, but they're not very flexible. So what I mean with that is, like, say for example, you're very good at playing a standard game of Terran versus Zerg, right? You're really good at playing that like turtle approach that Maru is good at. But what do you do if suddenly Zerg goes for like an all-out mid-game assault, right? Maybe you're not as good at defending that, and as soon as players figure out your weakness, they will exploit that. Ragnarok in the previous game basically said, okay, you can't play your Mass Zealot Gateway style like you like to do, or your Mass Zealot Stalker style. So instead, I'm going to force you to play the late game instead. And MaxPax looked at that once, he's like, okay, sure. That's what you want to do? Sure, I'll show you what needs to be done. What's kind of funny as well is that these days, whenever you see a Protoss player losing 2 Nexi at like the 12-minute mark and 25 workers, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to go all in as a follow-up, because even at that point, MaxPax still had like 70 workers left over. But yeah, showing a lot of maturity in that previous game as far as his playstyle goes. Very good stuff. Alright, third Nexus coming up. Oracle, flying across the map. It spots a bunch of Zerglings that are heading on over in this direction. Spore Crawlers are going to finish up at the correct time this time around, so yeah, maybe a little bit concerned about a potential cancel on that Nexus. Showing the Oracle flying across, but now the Oracle is coming back home. Twilight Council, once again. We'll probably see the Forge. Yeah, there it is. There's a quick evolution chamber coming up again on the side of Ragnarok. So I guess we're once more going into +1 melee. Which is, yeah, I think a pretty good opener, but definitely a little bit risky. Coming up on 100 gas. Yep. Okay, Ragnarok not losing anything up to this point in the game. Other than maybe... Okay, I was going to say maybe a Zergling or two. Hey, there it is. Ooh. So, MaxPax, looking at that previous build, he's like, okay, if you want to skip your Roachborn, your Baneling Nest, if you want to go for quick +1 melee and rely on that alone, I'm going to be going for the charge slot upgrade first. A lot of gateways coming up right now too, but there is a Baneling Nest on the back of this, okay. MaxPax is going to see it. Honestly important for him to know, yeah. Okay, so I like that move a lot. I think Ragnarok, if he would have skipped a tech structure again, so this is now something that MaxPax has seen, but he would be in a lot of trouble. Still 6 gateways coming up. I actually don't really like the idea of going for a push. So anyways, here's the thing. If you go for Zealots with +1 ground weapons, rather than 3-shotting a Zergling, they actually 2-shot a Zergling, which is a big deal. Zerglings will die significantly faster to Zealots with +1. The problem is that, well, assuming they don't have any armor upgrades. The problem is that obviously Banelings also benefit from the +1 ground weapons. And Banelings would be really good at holding a mass Zealot attack, and MaxPax actually goes for another Nexus. Okay. So despite the fact that he just made 7 gateways here in total, he's made the call. Nope, not gonna go for a big assault. He could go for a 3-base all-in if he really wanted to, but instead he decides to go for a 4th Nexus once again. Yeah. I like that. So, once more, quite a bit of maturity here in the game. Running the Stalkers in the right direction. We are going to need a Zealot Warp window. Okay. Well, rather than defending the Nexus, we're going in for what seems to be a counterattack. I don't think that this Nexus is going to live to tell the tale. Council on that one. But is there going to be enough as well in the meantime at home to actually defend against these Zealots? Well... The drones have... Wait. Oh, okay. I was going to say, the drones are all down south. Thought for a second he had accidentally already lost all of those workers there. That's not ideal. Splits on the Zealots to try and make them take as much damage as possible. Try and sacrifice as many of those Banes, but... Yeah, this is going to be cleaned up. Somehow this bad boy over here. 1 health to his name. Ready to charge once again. Look at that. Beautiful. You love to see that. Okay, so +2 melee coming up as well as the Baneling speed upgrade. So this Zealot army is definitely going to be shut down. But I mean, again, we're just trading minerals for gas. It's not terrible for Protoss here at all. Hero Zealot ends up going down, but... Stasis Wards ready to intercept any surrounds. Okay. 4th Nexus in the meantime, finishing up on the left side of the map. 4th Hatchery, of course, done already as well. In a game like this, I would actually really like to see a Spire. I think a Spire is really strong in general. Instead, Ragnarok decides to go for Hydralisks once again, and he's going into an Overlord drop. So the nice thing about getting +2 melee early is that you can actually one-shot workers. Battery overcharge here used to target the Nexus, so it's going to regenerate some shields. Not bad. But yeah, with +2 melee, you can one-shot unupgraded Protoss probes, which is pretty nice. It obviously, yeah, makes those Baneling landmines and the Baneling explosions and the Baneling drops and all that quite a bit more terrifying. Still, MaxPax is with his foot on the gas, even though I don't know if he can legally drive yet in, in Denmark. He's got his foot on the gas nonetheless. Maybe he can, actually. I think it said 2004 on his Wikipedia page. Okay. Both players constantly testing the waters. There's the Baneling drop coming up. It literally flew by the 5th Nexus, though. So I'm assuming, yeah, this was spotted. Stalker's coming back home, ready to intercept this. Fifth Nexus is so much quicker, though, than the Zerg's fifth base. This is a theme every time. Yeah. Ovi? Ovi, no. Constant battles in the middle of the map. I don't like these traits for Zerg. I don't like them. I would like them if we had more workers. If this was played off of like 100 drones, I wouldn't mind it. Then at that point, I'm like, okay, that would be great because we're actually winning with a plan in mind. But these type of games, when MaxPax is economically ahead, when we're trading cost inefficiently, it's just never gonna work out in the Zerg's favor. Maybe I'm mistaken. But MaxPax will be happy to trade resources here any day of the week. Basically, Ragnarok is relying on getting a big baneling hit. Like, if he does not get a big baneling hit... Oh! Very nice! Beautiful! Yeah, if he does not get a big baneling hit... How is he gonna win? What's the plan? He probably needs, yeah, a good engagement. And there is a chance he's gonna get it. I'd like to be wrong, but I've got a feeling that right now you're not relying on your own skill. Instead, you're relying on your opponent to make a mistake. And while that might work against the lower tier Protosses, I do not believe that it's gonna work when someone is incredibly on point. And MaxPax so far seems to know exactly what he's doing. Let's see if maybe this is gonna be the slip up. Banelings heading on over towards the mineral line. Okay, a couple of probes end up going down. That's also because there's a fight happening down south. That one apparently pushed back for the time being. 13 probes end up going down, but the entirety of the Zerg army here also got picked off. There's zealots over at the fourth base of the Zerg. Stalkers here hiding behind the tall grass. Yeah, 19 probes is nice. But that's what I was trying to say earlier. 19 probes, sure, really good. 19 probes killed in this game, fantastic. But we're still at 79 probes versus 74 drones. That is not enough. Like, when your strategy relies on blowing up your entire mineral line, or your opponent's mineral line, I guess, I don't think it's a very good strategy. Okay. MaxPax transitioning as well towards the disruptors. Some nasty Blink Stalker micro here as well, coming out of the Danish Protoss, keeping so many of those units alive for longer than they normally would. So much chaos created everywhere as well, so the Spine Crawlers are dealing with that. Maybe these Banes can get something done? No, they won't. MaxPax. Oh my god, look at the average actions per minute. Ragnarok, okay, so insane repeat rates on his keyboard, I believe. Jeez. 603 average actions per minute in this game so far. And somehow MaxPax seems to be outpacing him. I feel like we've seen this exact situation in game 1. This is near identical. 92 workers for Protoss, 72 for Zerg. Zerg desperately trying to get damage done, and while he's getting a little bit of damage done here and there, at some point all those Protoss upgrades are going to kick in, so now we're at +3, +2. They've already kicked in. Zerg is at +2, +1, meaning that those units, yeah, will just interact more profitable for the Protoss. Okay. A couple of Hydras going down with a backflip. Sounds like a cool way to go. There we go. All right. 9 probes have gone down once again. Oh, Miss Rally. Okay. So that might be the beginning of something right there. MaxPax misstepping his Stalkers, losing a bunch of them for free. Okay, and now Ragnarok is also setting himself up for that transition that really counters Stalkers and Zealots. He's going into the Lurker Den. I think it's a good choice. Albeit a little bit late, because already Disruptors are out. And as we saw in that previous game, it's not like MaxPax is shying away from playing late game. He's still making workers. Can you make one more after this, just so we're at 3 digits? We're at 99. Come on, Max. No! Ragnarok ruined it. Can't believe it. Okay, we're gonna need to see a couple more, Max. Anyways, MaxPax getting a ridiculous amount of income here. Look at that roller coaster of an income advantage. A lot of Zergling run-bys. A lot of move-outs. A lot of units getting killed. But what is available to actually destroy this Protoss army? Well, before the Lurker Den went down, luckily here for Ragnarok, he did queue up 14 Lurkers. Zerglings now in the natural. Zerglings right now at this 4th base as well. Zerglings now at the 6 o'clock position down south. Okay, Ragnarok suddenly is everywhere. The Zerg infestation is growing, but it's not being cleaned up perfectly just yet. A recall is utilized here on at least some of those units. A couple disruptors moving incredibly far forward. I think MaxPax did not expect those Lurkers to be out, and that's why he decides to go back home. Okay. 28 probes. So how many workers have gone down this game? 63 probes, and he's still at 70 plus. Look how the tables have turned. Normally it's the Protoss destroying the Zerg's drones. Not the Protoss, you know, losing all the probes and then just having more of them. MaxPax is like, yo, look at me. I am the swarm now. Look at me real good. Remember my face. I am the swarm. Step aside, Kerrigan. Relentless harassment here. Alright. Fleet Beacon transition coming up together with double Stargate. Oh, Banelings are rolling into Archons. That's the last place you want to see them going. This Archon over here might go down eventually, but it's already been responsible for soaking up like a dozen Banes. It takes like 20 Banelings to kill one Archon. Like literally, it's quite extreme. With these upgrades, I don't really know exactly how it lines up, but there's no denying that Banelings rolling into Archons is not particularly cost efficient. Triple carrier coming up. +1 flyer attacks coming up as well. There are quite a few Hydras available though. Actually, I say that. I think all of them have morphed into Lurkers. Yeah, okay, no. We did see quite a few Hydras, and he's making more right now. Okay. Aggressive blinks straight into the Zerglings. Ooh, we never got Adrenal Glands. Ooh, okay. That is not ideal. Zerg really needs to get the Zergling attack speed upgrade. Without Adrenal Glands, these Lings are not as powerful as they could be. Alright. Here come the carriers. Just Hydras ready to deal with those at this point. Ragnarok doesn't know. He's busy putting out about 6 fires all over the map, so he hasn't really had time in the APM to scout around the map. Here's once again that Protoss army coming in, ready to snipe another base. Revelation on the Oracle. That's the Oracle from the early game, I believe. Is going to show all of this. And now carriers are spotted as well in the middle of the map. Lings and Hydras, though, down south. Excellent work. MaxPax moving back home after destroying one of his opponent's bases. And these Hydras may actually be caught completely off guard. They're not going to be able to, scramble themselves back home. 33 of them have gone down. I'm getting a little bit concerned once again for the amount of anti-air available in this army of the Zerg. We're at 9 Hydras, which is nice. But Hydras just really aren't an anti-air unit. Like, they can shoot up, right? Don't get me wrong. They have an anti-air attack. But they're not a reliable unit. And Ragnarok agrees. He looks at his army. He looks at that of the Protoss. He realizes that in his future, there's nothing but pain. That's very dramatic. Anyways, he decides to tap out before he has to take this engagement. And just like that, MaxPax wins 3-0 over Ragnarok. I think what the MaxPax fans really want to see, myself included though, is him participating in offline tournaments. I really hope we're going to see him in some of the big tournaments. That would be awesome. I'd love to see how he does against those top level players.